All right, and we're back with another video. Just excited tonight to come back and talk about Psalm 24. In the last video, we talked about verse 1. Tonight, I want to go through verses 2 through 6 and maybe just talk about and give a little insight of what Psalm 24 is saying. And I hope it blesses you. I hope it encourages you to continue to read through it. And like tonight, what I want to accomplish is to go through verses 2 through 6. And let's do that right now. So in verse 2, it says this: "For he," meaning God, "has founded it," meaning the earth, "upon the seas and established it upon the rivers." And all of those it's is talking about the earth. Because in the first video, I went over verse 1. If you want to check that out, you could check out verse 1 at the end of this video, where we talked about the earth is the Lord's. And saying in verse 2, saying that he founded it upon the seas and established it upon the rivers, meaning that he created, all the bodies of water. He is all powerful. So he created it, founded it on the seas, and established it upon the rivers. So now in verse 3, though, I believe David gives us a little challenge with this question. He says that who shall ascend the hill of the Lord? Right, I want to stop right there in that first part of verse 3. Who shall ascend the hill of the Lord? And I want us to think about that just for a moment. And who shall ascend the hill of the Lord? Meaning that who is higher than him? Because in our culture, if we think about it, we put people on pedestals. And we may put people on high pedestals sometimes where they're not supposed to be. And David is giving us this question here and saying that who shall ascend the hill of the Lord, his high place? I think about this when I read it. I thought about like Mount Rushmore. And in our culture, we would say, well, who's on your Mount Rushmore? Maybe it's these presidents, or who's on your Mount Rushmore of basketball or baseball or football. In our culture, we do that. But who is on your Mount Rushmore for God? Is God there alone, or is he there with some other people? David, I believe, is challenging us to say that who is higher than God in your life, or is God is the highest? And if he's not the highest, then maybe you should revisit, self-examine, and say, who shall ascend him? Who shall be higher than God in our lives? Let's look at this second part in verse 3. He says, and who shall stand in his holy place? And it's kind of the same challenge, saying that who can stand with him in his holy place? Truthfully, no one, because God is the holiest. Who can stand in his holy place? Because he's all powerful, all knowing, and he is the holiest. So it would be no one that can stand in his holy place. But the beautiful thing is that God has made provision for people who believe in him to stand in his holy place with him. So let's look at what David says in verse 4. He says, who has clean hands and a pure heart, who does not lift up his soul to what is false, and does not swear deceitfully. Let's stop there. So there's three things that David has given us to show that we're able to be in God's holy place with him. God has made provision for that, because God can clean our hands, right? God can help us to lift up our soul and show us the truth and not believe in what is false, right? And it says, who has a pure heart? The Bible talks about God cleansing our heart. So who can stand in his holy place? Those who believe in him, those who have a pure heart, a clean hands, those who don't believe in what is false, basically those who have been transformed by God's power. And they can stand in his holy place. That's a beautiful thing, because if not, then it wouldn't be no one who could stand with God, as I said in the beginning. So that is a beautiful thing that David is showing here, that he's saying that we can stand with him in his holy place. And then in verse 5, he says, those will receive blessings from the Lord and righteousness from the God of his salvation. So meaning that God will give us a blessing. We can receive it from God, and we should receive it. Some people may not receive a blessing from God, but also from the God of his salvation. Meaning that God is the one who controls salvation. And I have a video on that talks about what does salvation really mean. But what salvation means is to be rescued. And God is doing that for humanity, and he has done that through Jesus Christ. So those that will have a blessing from the Lord and have righteousness from the God of their salvation. But look at verse 6. It says this, such is the generation of those who seek him. Meaning that, are we taking the time out to seek him? Are we taking the time out to try to be in the presence of God? Those, the collective. David says the generation of those who seek him. So it's a collective. Those who seek him will receive this salvation, righteousness, and blessing, and be able to stand with him, like he says, in his holy place. That's a beautiful thing. And also the second part of verse 6, it says, who seek the face of the God of Jacob. So what David, I believe, is saying here through just reading and studying, if you don't know anything about Jacob, the highlight of Jacob's life in the Old Testament is that people remember him for wrestling with God. And I think what David is doing right here is that he wants you to understand that when you seek God, when you're trying to be in his holy place, when you're trying to receive righteousness from him, you have to wrestle with some things. We have to wrestle in this life to be able just to seek his face, because there are things that are pull on us for our time. There are things that are pull on us to tempt us. There are things that are try to turn us, or to distract us or turn us away from what God wants. So I believe David is using Jacob as just a illustration, saying that we will wrestle with some things, but we have to seek the face of God. I hope this, just this short talk blessed you tonight. I hope this few verses encouraged you to continue to read Psalm 24. And in the next video, we will deal with verses 7 through 10 and talk about what David is saying about praising the King of Glory. So just remember, who can ascend the hill of the Lord? Who is higher than God? And hopefully God is the highest in your life. Hopefully nobody is higher than God. But also, who can stand in his holy place? Just remember that God has made provision for us to stand in his holy place. The way he has cleansed our hands, made us have a pure heart. So understand that God has made provision for that. And continue to read Psalm 24. And like I said, I hope this blessed you. And we will go through verses 7 through 10. And I will see y'all next time.